Hello everyone, today we are going to be talking about the unit circle. This is going to be the first video in a series of videos talking about how we make the unit circle. Before we get into the first topic, which is what we call degrees, I want to show you a completely filled out unit circle. So a complete unit circle is going to look like this. And we're eventually going to get to the point where we've talked about all of these pieces, where they come from and how they work. But what I want to show you real quick is where some of the angle measures come from. So I'm looking specifically at these numbers that are on the inside here. These are going to be what we call our degree measures. Okay, just a quick kind of show you where these come from. These are going to be based on our special right triangle. So I'm using my 30, 60, 90 triangle and my 45, 45, 90 triangle. So when I do a 30-degree angle, what that means is I'm lining up my 30 degrees at the center of the circle, and it's where I cross the outside of the circle with my triangle. You know, this one doesn't quite fit size-wise, but that's the idea of what we're doing. Okay, same thing with my 60 degrees. I gotta flip mine over here. 60 degrees goes up and crosses at this point. Okay, same thing with 45s. They're gonna go through and cross at that point. Okay, so that's the general idea of what we're doing. Let me go ahead and switch back over to my smaller unit circle here, and we'll talk about our degrees on this one. So starting with our degree measures, these are measuring degrees just like we measure angles in any one of our geometric shapes. We always start over here on the right hand side. Okay, this point right here is always 0 degrees, and we're always measuring from that point up to whatever level we're on. So the first tick mark that I go here, this is measuring really my angle here at the middle. I'm going to roughly draw this because it's going to get a little bit confused, but I'm basically drawing in this angle, and where it crosses here is going to be at 30 degrees. Okay, and again, that's coming from we're using those special right triangles. The next one that's going to go in the middle here is going to be the 45 degrees. Again, the other special right triangle, and then right above that is going to be the 60 degrees. Okay, now this is a circle, so I can start to fill in some of the other points as well that might help us out. So right at the top, this angle in the middle is going to form a 90-degree angle. Okay, that's my right angle. So up at the very top, I'm going to put 90 degrees. I can also go all the way across my circle. That's forming a straight line. We know a straight line is forming a 180-degree angle. Then we're going to start to get into some weird ones down here at the bottom. So if I'm at 180 degrees, if I have another angle here, kind of another quarter of the circle, that's another 90 degrees. So I need to add 90 to 180, which gets me to 270. Now that 270 is technically starting at the right hand side here and going all the way around my circle until I get to the bottom here. So you can see I'm going quite a ways around. I'm not quite going the full circle, but I'm going the long distance around. That's my 270 degrees. Okay, and then finally, all the way around the circle, we could also call this point over here 0 degrees or 360 degrees. That's all the way around. And now one of the very important things with unit circle is start to recognizing the patterns. So I obviously have not filled in all of my degrees yet because we want to start to find the pattern that's going to help us do that. So if I just look at this first quadrant, I made a first jump here from 0 to 30. So my first jump was 30 degrees. From there, I went from 30 to 45. That's a jump of 15 degrees. Then from the 45, I'm going to go to 60. That's another 15 degrees. And then finally from 60 to 90 is 30 degrees. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm now going to take, and I'm going to take all of these angles that I just made in this first quadrant, that's this upper right hand side, and I'm going to move them over to the upper left hand side, or the second quadrant. What that means is I need to take 90, and I'm going to go 30 degrees past that, then 45 degrees past that, and 60 degrees past that, and then finally 90 degrees past that, all the way to the 180. So in other words, I'm doing these same angle measures, but now starting with 90 and going this way. Well, what that means is I'm going to follow this same pattern. So I went from 30, then an extra 15, then a 15 and a 30. Now I'm going to reset and do the same thing. So I'm going to go 30 degrees more, which gets me to 120. Then I'm going to go 15 degrees, which is 135. Then I'm going to go another 15, which is going to be 150. Making sure I get these. And then I go with my final 30 degrees to get to 180. So now I have half of my degrees filled in with a couple extra ones here. But we need to continue to follow that pattern. So now that I filled in the upper left, I'm going to move to the bottom left, and I continue around my circle. I still follow this same 30, 15, 15, 30. So from 180, I add 30. which gets me to 210. Then I go from 210 to 225. That's the extra 15. Add another 15 gets me to 240. And finally another 30 gets me to 270. So you can see that this pattern, you can kind of double check that you're in the right spot, that I hit these kind of major checkpoints at my 4 kind of major corners, if you want to think of them that way. Okay, last quadrant is quadrant 4, that's my bottom right. I'm going to continue from 270, I'm going to add 30, gets me to 300. Add 15 gets me to 315. Add 15 gets me to 330. And add 30 gets me to 360. So now I've made it all the way around the circle. Okay, now these are our degree measurements. This is the pattern we use to find them. Okay, knowing these degrees is going to be really important because eventually, again, we're going to fill out everything else on the unit circle, and these degrees are part of knowing where on the circle we're actually talking about. So these kind of give us the knowledge of where do we need to go on the circle. So that is your degree measurements. Next, we're going to be talking about radians, which are really just another way to name all of these points. So we'll move to that video now.